There is a silent epidemic spreading across the NBA hardwood, and it's not a knee injury or a hamstring pull. It's an attitude, a persistent, annoying, and frankly, exhausting display of entitlement that is slowly ruining the flow of the game we love. We see it every single night. The arms flailing outwards, the permanent scowl directed at the nearest official, the complete disregard for getting back on defense because the priority isn't stopping the fast break, it's complaining about the last possession. We need to talk about the two biggest perpetrators of this epidemic. We need to talk about the faces of the control versus chaos style of complaining. We are talking about Luka Dončić and Nikola Jokic. These two are, without a doubt, the biggest and most persistent whiners in the NBA today. And the frustrating part? Unlike the chaos agents of the league who get instantly punished, these two operate in a bubble of protection. Let's start with the poster child for perpetual frustration, Luka Dončić. This man plays basketball like he's constantly fighting against the universe. Every dribble, every drive, every single possession seems to end the same way, with his arms spread wide, staring at a referee with a look of utter disbelief. It's not just occasional, it is a core component of his game. You can set your watch to it. Luka will execute a beautiful step-back three, make the shot, and immediately, instead of celebrating with his team, he's turning to the official to point out that there was contact. If he misses, it's a catastrophe of injustice. He hunches his shoulders, shakes his head, and often jogs back on defense while still looking over his shoulder to complain. The level of it is what makes it so staggering. It's not just star players talking to refs, it's a relentless, possession-by-possession negotiation. It's a constant stream of energy directed at everyone but the game itself. Think about the mental toll that takes on a team. The game is stopped, the momentum is killed, and instead of setting up a defense, the other four players on the court have to watch their superstar argue with an official about a call that isn't going to be changed. It's exhausting to watch as a fan, so imagine being his teammate. You have the ball, you're pushing the pace, but your best player is 20 feet behind you, gesturing wildly at the sideline. That's not leadership, that's a liability. Then, you have the other side of the coin, Nikola Jokic. If Luka represents the chaos style of complaining, loud, frantic, and constant, then Jokic represents the control style. He's the passive-aggressive giant. He doesn't always scream, though he does. But his signature move is the flail. You see it constantly, a big man in the paint, minimal contact, and suddenly his arms shoot up like he's been electrocuted, his body contorts, and he looks at the official with the most bewildered expression a 280-pound man can muster. He is a master of the flop. Let's call it what it is, it's flopping. The league supposedly implemented rules to crack down on this exact behavior. They said they were going to fine players and issue technicals for flopping. Yet, night after night, Jokic is throwing his head back on minimal contact, trying to sell a foul that isn't there. And the worst part? It works. He gets the call so often that it has become a legitimate weapon in his arsenal. But when it doesn't work, the act turns to frustration. He'll throw his hands up, waddle down the court complaining, and sometimes, he'll just give up on the play entirely. It's a weird dichotomy for a player so skilled. He can make the most incredible pass you've ever seen, but he can't absorb a bump without performing an interpretive dance for the referees. The real question we have to ask ourselves isn't whether they complain, that's obvious. The real question is, why do they get away with it? Why are these two allowed to operate with a level of dissent that would have gotten players in the past ejected or heavily fined? Look at the chaos agents of complaining. Look at Draymond Green. Draymond argues with the ferocity of a man fighting for his life. He gets in the faces of referees, he yells, he stomps, and he gets technical fouls at a historic rate. He is the chaos referee antagonist. He is volatile, and the league treats him as such. One wrong look, one wrong word, and he's hit with a tech. The same goes for players like Dylan Brooks or even the legends like Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed would look at a ref the wrong way, and he'd be tossed. The threshold for these chaos players is incredibly low because the officials know they are dealing with a powder keg. But with Luka and Jokic? The threshold is miles high. Luka can follow an official from the three-point line to the mid-court logo, pleading his case, shaking his head, showing visible frustration for 10 straight seconds, and rarely does he get the quick whistle. How is that possible? If Luka complains more than Draymond, which he objectively does, in terms of frequency, how does he have a fraction of the technical fouls? You have to start wondering about the psychology of the officiating. Is it a respect thing? Is it because Luka and Jokic are generally calmer in their approach, even when they are furious, that referees give them more leeway? Or is it something deeper? Is the league protecting its new European superstars? They are the faces of the new NBA. They are the ones selling jerseys, filling seats, and dominating the MVP conversations. The league has invested heavily in them. Are the officials, perhaps subconsciously, letting them get away with behavior that would get a role player or a chaos veteran benched? Think about the narrative. If Draymond Green does his controlled chaos routine, it's headlines. If he gets ejected, it's the top story on SportsCenter. But if Luka spends an entire playoff game complaining, the narrative is usually Luka was frustrated with the lack of calls rather than Luka was a liability with his complaining. The framing is different because the talent is undeniable. This creates a dangerous precedent. The integrity of the game suffers when the rules are applied subjectively based on the player's status or personality. We are seeing the rise of a culture where the first instinct after a play isn't to hustle or recover, but to look for validation from an official. It slows the game down to a crawl. It turns a beautiful, fast-paced sport into a stop-start debate club. The NBA tried to fix this with points of emphasis at the start of seasons. They talk about respect for the game and limiting complaining. But when the whistles don't match the words, the players learn that the rules don't apply to them. We see this control versus chaos dynamic play out in the crybaby starting five. If you were to build a lineup of the guys who spend the most time in a game talking to the referees rather than playing, it would actually be a terrifyingly talented team. At point guard, you'd have Luka, running the show and stopping the show in equal measure. At shooting guard, you have Devin Booker, who has shown he can complain with the best of them, even famously complaining about being double-teamed in a pickup game. At small forward, you have LeBron James, the veteran general, who has mastered the art of the stern look in the intense conversation with officials, often dropping to his knees in protest. At power forward, you have the chaos incarnate, Draymond Green. And at center, the flailing, arm-throwing Jokic. That team would win 70 games but would also average about 15 minutes of game delay per night due to technical discussions. It's a bad look for the association. It's a bad look for the young kids watching their heroes. When you see the best players in the world refuse to run back on defense because they are too busy crying about a missed call, it teaches the next generation that effort is secondary to ego. It teaches them that the blame for a missed shot lies with the guy in the striped shirt, not with the guy who took it. It's time for the league to truly crack down. Not just with press releases and points of emphasis in the rulebook, but with actual consequences. If a player, regardless of whether his name is Luka, Jokic, or LeBron, stands there with his arms out while the other team scores, hit him with a tech. If a 7-footer flops like he's been hit by a sniper, hit him with the fine and the tech. Make the game about the game again. Until then, we are stuck watching the two biggest whiners in the league hold the game hostage, one complaint at a time. And frankly, that's exhausting.